What's up, guys? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more of our videos. Also, make sure you follow us all over social media so you don't miss any of our content or show announcements. The only hope for the Warriors to win this series was for their defense to stifle Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle long enough for Steph Curry to make a return. And Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle just left no chance of that being the case. Both of those guys were fantastic in these two games in Golden State. And in both games, Golden State threw a great punch and got scoring punch from some guys that have been inconsistent throughout the season. They get the best play out of Jonathan Kuminga that we've seen in this postseason by far in his first kind of like long leash opportunity. The games are close in the second half both times. But in both games, a little bit later in the fourth quarter in Game 3, more of a mid-third quarter run in Game 4. But Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle are able to figure things out and get on a run and put the game away. Now, obviously, it's more complicated than that. Not having Steph Curry on the floor has all sorts of trickle-down effects. Jackson and I were talking about this earlier. There's like a belief that you have to have. And you could literally see when Ant's going on his scoring run, it just kind of sapped the belief out of that Warriors defense. And that's where it'd be nice if you had a guy on your team that could go on a scoring run to help you put the opponent in that sort of position. But the fact remains that against what I believe is probably the second or third best defense in the NBA, it's Oklahoma City, it's Minnesota, it's Boston, it's Golden State. Those are the four best defenses that I've watched to this point in the season. And Golden State obviously was the number one defense in the league over the final stretch of games there from the Jimmy Butler trade. This is a very, very good defense that Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle were able to score on. And this is the Anthony Edwards upside that I've been so excited about for so long. One of the things I've talked about with him is there's a certain unguardability with him that is different than the unguardability you see with Jokic or with Luka, where it's primarily built on size. Ant has size. He's 6'6" and he's built like a truck. But he has this profound stop-start ability, which allows him to get from point A to point B, but to stop on a dime at point B and to get straight up and down into a shot. And you add to that the touch that he has built out over the last couple of years. I was speaking about this in the playoff run last year, stretching into the Team USA basketball stretch over the summer. I'm a big believer in Anthony Edwards' jump shot. The form is crisp. He gets great rotation on the ball. He has great arc on the shot. Yes, he can still, have his stretches where he cools off a little bit, but overall, I believe in him as a jump shooter. And when you piece all of that together, what it allows for is the ability for him to get to any spot on the floor with his athleticism, but to have the shots necessary to pay off any of those specific spots on the floor. Whether it's all the way to the rim for a dunk, whether it's a finish with either hand, he's finally starting to finish better around the basket over the course of the last couple of games. You can tell he's starting to figure out his angles in this particular matchup. The short-range shot making, the step-throughs and the floaters. He had a couple absurd little like lefty-righty floaters at various kind of finishing angles in this game. Settled into a nice, easy mid-range jumper. I'd like to see him take that one a little bit more. And then he can take a three against a ball screen, against a drop coverage. He can take a three on a step back going to his left. He can take a three on a step back going to his right. He just has all of the shot making to tie that athleticism piece to the ability to actually finish plays and make shots. And, one of the big differences, obviously Golden State's defense is trying to make him make higher difficulty reads. But, in the way that these games kind of dictate, you have to, as the star, take some difficult shots over double teams. I thought it was flat out bizarre in this game that we saw Jimmy Butler in a very similar type of situation where his team needed him to score, only take 9 shots. Because again, in this sort of situation, when the defense is as good as it is and everyone's as locked in and as focused as they are, you need a guy who can take a step back three over a contested hand and make it. That's what Jason Tatum was doing tonight. That was what Jalen Brunson was doing tonight. So Donovan Mitchell's done a lot in the Indiana Pacers series. It's what Steph Curry did to the Rockets. You need somebody that can overcome the circumstances of high-level defense with high-level shot making. And Anthony Edwards has now pieced together this overwhelming athletic frame that he's got with elite shot making from every spot on the floor, and it's turned him into one of the great players in our game. I mean, this is, again, one of the best defenses in the league, and he's lighting them up this last couple of games. In his playoff career, obviously not including tonight, he's averaging 28 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists on 59% true shooting. 35 career playoff games before tonight. He's about to make his second consecutive conference finals. He's just 23 years old, still just barely scratching the surface of his potential. It has been so much fun watching him over the course of these last few seasons, and there's a part of me that's sad, obviously. LeBron and Steph are my 2 favorite players, and they're going home. And it's unfortunate in a lot of ways. I was really disappointed in the way the Lakers played. I did believe in this Golden State team. I actually think they would have won the series if Steph Curry was healthy. But at the same time, as a basketball fan, if I had to see the reins get handed over, I like the group that's taken over. And watching Anthony Edwards, watching Jalen Brunson, watching what Tatum did today before his injury, what we've got coming on the periphery in terms of what Victor Wembanyama can do, Cooper Flagg coming into the league, who already has shown that he has the potential to be one of the greats in our league. Like, I feel like the league is just in a really good spot. And I hate it had to be like this, but at the same time, I'm excited to watch these guys. I'm excited to see Anthony Edwards potentially versus Oklahoma City. We'll talk about that in a minute. The Julius Randle piece, 31 points tonight, 11 for 21 from the field. Coming into tonight, 22 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists on 59% true shooting in the playoffs. I feel like he has vindicated himself and shown a light on the reality that he was just banged up and out of rhythm in a lot of his previous playoff runs. He is a big, strong forward that can make shots and can pass, which is a very useful player in the NBA postseason. Obviously, he didn't get tested mentally as a defender in this series like he would have with Steph Curry. That was something that I was very interested to see in terms of a challenge for him to have to deal with. But Julius Randle, I've been so impressed by him in this entire postseason run. Looking forward for Minnesota, like, we'll talk about Golden State in a minute. I don't think they should bring Steph Curry back. So I think Minnesota is going to close this out in Game 5. Obviously, we know what Minnesota looks like versus Denver. We got ringside seats for that last year, and that was an unbelievable series. But as I mentioned after yesterday's game, I think Denver blew their chance to beat Oklahoma City in the fourth quarter last night. Up by 8 on that Peyton Watson hook shot. That was their chance. If there was an opportunity for them to win that series, I feel like they let it slip. It's not over, but I would make Oklahoma City a substantial favorite at this point, just like Vegas has been doing for the entire damn series. But I think Oklahoma City is going to win that series, and it makes for a very interesting matchup. As you guys have seen with Denver, they've been able to play Oklahoma City into these slow-down half-court environments where they're just playing a lot of high ISO basketball. And, Golden State was able to do similar things to Minnesota, in the sense that obviously there's lots of different coverages we saw. We saw zone in this series. We saw Jackson pointed out there's to me in a text message they ran a box and one possession in that second half at one point, just having Jonathan Kuminga face guard Anthony Edwards off the ball while the other two guys sat in a 2-2 zone. But there's a lot of weird stuff, but ultimately it's Anthony Edwards hitting shots over the top at the top of the key. Anthony Edwards is hitting shots out of closeouts off the weak side. That was a big thing they unlocked in the last 2 games, is getting Ant a little bit more off the ball into some catch and shoot situations. And then him trying to slalom through bodies and get to the basket. Both of these defenses, Oklahoma City and Minnesota, will be able to stall each other out and get them trapped in the half court. But I tell you guys, I cannot wait to see Anthony Edwards versus potentially Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in a playoff series going toe-to-toe at the top of the key. I think that could be a really fun one. Again, it's not over. Denver certainly can beat Oklahoma City, but I think we're careening towards a Shai versus Ant face-off in the conference finals, which I think could be a ton of fun. On the Golden State front, as I mentioned at the beginning of the series, I didn't see any purpose to bringing Steph back before Game 6 because there's just too much of a risk for him re-injuring himself. And even at this point, it's like, what are you going to do? Bring him back in Game 5 and win 3 games in a row against that physical Minnesota Timberwolves team and then roll up into a series against Oklahoma City? Like I said before this series that I thought Golden State would get smacked by Oklahoma City. So I don't necessarily think that there's much in the way of a reward to make the risk worth it, trying to force Steph back out there into that sort of setting. And so I think that they most likely need to just leave him and let him rest and prepare for next season. We've seen enough from this Warriors team in this playoff run, I think, to justify the fact that they have, a real chance next year that they should go for. I think we saw some of the realities of Jimmy Butler as an offensive player in this postseason run, and that like some nights he has it, some nights he doesn't. He kind of has like a weird lack of aggression at times. And so I think they need to be targeting a pretty high level offensive player this offseason. All roads to me just kind of keep running back to Cam Johnson as like the obvious fit. And we'll see what they end up doing. But all in all, like, just like I said with the Lakers, it's really hard to put together a team on the fly at the trade deadline. And both teams did the best they could. And both teams had some really impressive stretches, but ultimately, neither team was able to get to the level they need to get to, and they just need to make the necessary pivots this offseason around their new star core. You got Jimmy Butler now. You need to just anchor them with high-level offense. The Lakers got Luka. They need to reconfigure their offense around Luka. That's the process as we head into the summer.